What's up again, everybody? What's a hero? The anti-hero, the hero. It's kind of that conundrum, I guess, in a way, of trying to figure out exactly whether we should have heroes or be our own heroes. I guess I've talked about this lots of times in the past, but I had a couple notes I just wanted to get through pretty quick. A couple thoughts in my head, because if I don't get it out now, then I never will. The hero, the idea of the hero, comes from our fear of the unknown and our fear of mortality, or rather, our simple fear of death. By finding a hero in our lives, it gives us something to aspire to, something that we might want to achieve, a type of personality that we could take on. And it's a way of seeking immortality. The hero itself, right? If you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, his work on... he had some phenomenal work about mythology and the hero's journey. And it was this continual repeating pattern you see within the storylines of movies and cartoons and whatnot. There's some average citizen or an animal or whatever, and they're faced with some major cataclysm, and then they have to go on this journey, this long journey, and they face all these hardships, and then in the end they become stronger for it. That's the hero's journey. We always are continuously on that. And in fact, that pertains very closely to the video I made the other day about Sisyphus pushing the stone. Funny thing is, I got a comment that said something like, well, you know, maybe pushing the stone is a waste of time. And somebody said something like, you missed the point. It was more about the fact that we're always pushing that stone. We're continually working towards something. Even if we're not doing anything, we're always carrying at least a burden. But the idea is, a lot of people wanted to be heroes because, especially in historic context, because they wanted to have their names memorialized. They wanted to be immortal. And a lot of people came to the conclusion that the only way to be immortal is to be remembered. And this is why people built giant temples and pyramids and various monoliths to support and celebrate themselves. This is why so many dictatorial societies have their great leaders just plastered up over the whole country. Those people really want to be remembered. And statues, I think I understand it, but I have no desire to have statues made of me. That would just be the weirdest thing. I guess there's certain people who desire that and others who don't. So one of the things and the main points I wanted to make here about the hero is that the hero can often lead to a person who is all about wealth, power, and control. And when you have wealth, and you have power, and you have control over people, then you make the decisions. You become this false version of a hero, kind of like this zealot. Think of any leader of any country where somebody made a meme of them with big muscles. Think about Putin riding on his horse, the actual picture of him, the idea that people want to convey. Even the current president, I've seen pictures of him sitting on horseback, right, with big rippling muscles, shooting guns, and it's just not the reality, but it's the mindset people have. They want to apply strength, physical strength, to a person who should have mental strength, even when that mental strength is not there. But what happens with heroes quite often is that it leads to people following orders. This old saying is, I was just following orders. My father, for example, fought in Vietnam, and I understand the military hardships. I really wanted to talk about this military problem, but I'm not going to get into that here. But you become slavery to your own reality of what's right and wrong, and people end up going off and shooting innocent people and blowing up villages because they were told to do it. We're just following orders. Is a soldier who went to war and killed innocent people a hero? And I'm not insulting soldiers at all. Like I said, my father was a soldier. He went through that shit. I understand it. It makes it really hard to find heroism in this world when you create the enemies. And the United States has been creating enemies for 100 years. We've found wars anywhere we can. There's always an enemy. Right now, we're fighting an invisible enemy, this virus. And the heroes, for the first time in a long time, are the scientists. And science has become so ridiculed now that it's not able to grab a foothold in the United States because all the scientists are getting death threats and being ridiculed for their legitimate views on things. And I'm not saying that they're not biased. I have a completely different video to do about that later. But to get through the points here, the reason why the hero's journey is so important, and what we're seeing right now in society with so many angry people, especially so many angry young males. It's an actual issue that we definitely have. It's a multifaceted problem. But the failed it's a failure that burdens us. If we feel like we've failed, the failed hero syndrome, we're burdened by self-loathing, let's say, or anger, or frustration towards others. And this leads to blame. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to process your emotions and problems. But be careful. Do not let it lead to blame. There are very few lessons that I will teach people in this world and say, this is what I believe is a fact you should not do or do. I'm very careful to word things and say that this works for me, maybe not for you. But blaming other people for your problems or your situation, whether it be teachers, parents, kids, circumstance, it does nothing. It's never helped anyone. I've never seen a single situation where pointing the finger helped. So, when we have a hero who's fighting in a battle, the blame goes to the other side. I have to fight this battle because I'm fighting evil. This idea of this invisible evil that we've always had in our heads. Well, when it comes to the virus, let's say, is the virus evil? Does it matter? No, but we still find an enemy. It was a laboratory. It was China. These people did this. These people did that. The president even taking blame, more blame than he should. Ridiculous. The media completely blows it out of proportion. And the media in this story are not the heroes. They're the antagonists. They are the ones who confuse the hero's journey and its message getting to the people. And then people become a victim of their own making. If they fail in their personal hero's journey, let's say you want to go through life and you want to be a doctor, you want to be this, you want to be that, and you fail at it. Some people just push the next stone up the next hill. Others, they sit in the valley and they stew about it. And they point fingers and they blame. And then they become a freaking victim of their own creation. Always of your own making. And so, then at a point some people will attach to somebody else's version of heroism. Which means that they've given up on finding their own journey. And they're going to say, this person, they seem happy, or they seem like they've figured some shit out, or unfortunately it's not about what a person knows these days. It's rather, how many followers or subscribers do they have? Like, as if that determines anything. In an era where you can buy subscribers and use advertising to get followers. I mean, what does any of that really matter? It doesn't. It's always the message, but people don't care about that as much. But we attach to somebody else's version of heroism, and that means we are biased in the same way that they are biased. So let's say we take on a viewpoint with a group of people who believe a certain thing, whatever it might be. Then if we disagree with one of their points, all of a sudden we might get attacked by the group. No, you have to agree completely. So the hero becomes not a hero of their own making, but a hero of somebody else's making. And then a person becomes a zealot. Then they become judgmental, and then they start taking sides. And this leads to people controlling others. And that's when a hero becomes a cult leader. And that's all I'd really like to get across, I guess. That our fear of not being understood or noticed leads us to want to be recognized. For me, it's YouTube, for example. I like having people enjoy my videos. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it has nothing to do with the ego. I definitely get an enjoyment from seeing comments and seeing that people care about what I have to say. That's my art form. That's what I do right now. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm great and everything I say is true. Of course not. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't believe a goddamn thing I say. I would hope every single person researches anything that I've ever said if they really want to say, oh, this is true. And maybe that's the reason I don't talk about certain things anymore, because I'm not sure. But the point being that each person has to be their own hero and find their own journey. And if we start following somebody else's paths, we get ourselves in trouble. And but we still have to have some sort of a framework to work with, a blueprint, if you will. I feel like nature has a blueprint for existence, for example, with many different, let's say, patterns and mathematical formulas. The one thing that sets it apart is chaos, and then we have emergence and all these creatures coming forward. And because of that, the hero's journey in my eyes is like looking at the bigger picture and trying to piece it together and understand things. But anyway, I could go on and on. I wanted to talk about a few other things having to do with the feelings that we have within this moment of lockdown and virus, and how it's affecting our dreams, how it's affecting our behaviors, and we're getting more moody or whatnot. But that's completely irrelevant to the hero story, so I'll leave it for the next one. So for now, I think I'm going to go out and do some gardening. So I'll talk to you all later.